Of course, we've had years of disruption, years of shortages, and even though right now things seem to be kind of like a little bit on the better side, don't be deceived. There's a very reputable website that monitors all the shortages that are coming, and there's a bunch coming in 2024. We need to take a look at and be prepared for. Let's jump right into it. The company is called Supply Chain Dive, and this is not a mainstream media outlet. This is literally a company that focuses on strategies for companies to be ready for what's coming. And their deep dive says, shortages of 2024, what supplies are still at risk after years of disruption? And currently there's a strong focus on cost management and cost insulation to protect profitability. And because of this, most companies try to avoid a holistic transformation of their supply chains. And this makes perfect sense. Not even just worldwide geopolitical turmoil, but inflation, people aren't spending as much. There's lots of things coming into play, and all the companies are scrambling, doing what they can to simply just stay profitable. And the first items they list in 2024, pharmaceuticals and medical supplies. We're already there. There are certainly shortages of medications that plague hospitals. This goes back to 2023 and has not been resolved. The FDA lists their own shortages, for example, cancer treatment drugs. And besides shortages, there's a huge astronomical price spike, not to mention dozens of other medicines in short supply. And something to keep in mind, look at this. Bulk drug imports from China just stayed an alarming 65%. And researching this, by the way, there's lots of websites out there that say we only get a small amount of drugs from China, like 7 to 9%. But other ones say it's upwards of 65%. Either way, problems with China make it so we can't get certain pharmaceuticals. And from the FDA, they have a medical device shortage list. And categories on this include anesthesiology, cardiovascular, cardiac diagnostic and monitoring, dialysis products. This is a huge one, general hospital and plastic surgery devices, radiological devices, and ventilation products. So if you fit into that category specifically, do what you can to try to stock up in certain things. I know it's difficult, especially if you have like cardiovascular drugs you have to take. Talk with your doctor and see if you can get maybe a month's worth ahead of time. Who knows, they might go for it. And secondly, for 2024, of course, food. War and weather have brought our food system on alert, and it may remain that way for a while. I don't think it's possible to go to any year at the moment without having food supply at the top of the risk register. We're seeing spikes in cocoa and sugar prices. Heat and drought in Europe have problems with olive oil. Prices have gone up globally. And we're very well concerned with grain-producing countries like Ukraine and Russia, where the farmers in Ukraine have abandoned literally millions of acres because of the war. And even greater concern exists for the impacts of future potential shocks, pointing to the potential of the war in the Middle East. Simply put, for us, continue to stockpile. If you go to the store and there's 5 flats of peas and you like peas, pick up a flat. Do what you can now to stock up on these things, because we're definitely seeing shortages in food coming in 2024. The year from hell, as we like to call it. Lots of things coming in as far as food shortages and price spikes too. This may not affect us too much. Battery minerals. Countries and businesses are scrambling to revamp their energy use, specifically because the key materials used to make batteries for electric vehicles and other green technologies are in trouble. Between 2017 and 2022, the demand for lithium has tripled, cobalt jumped 70%, nickel by 40%, and now there's growing concerns. Will the supply keep up with those growing demands? And when we look at electric vehicles and like hybrids too, for example, we say, oh, look how much money you save not having to fill up on gas, or for hybrids not fill up so often. And you do, by the way. Wow, the amount of gas you save driving those cars is awesome. But something they may not tell you is, the batteries have to be replaced every few years, and the amount of money to replace those batteries is astronomical and going up higher because of these shortages. Furthermore, when we like solar generators, or maybe you have a solar system in your house, it's not the exact same battery technology, although it could be, by the way. It's a way you can get around this. I can talk about that in a later video. But we're seeing prices that in those areas going up too. So it makes it more difficult even just simply to buy a solar generator. Climate-driven shortages. And it doesn't necessarily mean climate change, but when we look at extreme weather, it can slow or halt production or transport of supplies, of course. They give examples like a tornado damaged a Pfizer pharmaceutical plant in North Carolina. We see major shipping lanes like the Panama Canal and Mississippi River. Droughts have caused these problems. Also hitting the olive oil production in Spain and cocoa harvest. Extreme weather is causing problems with tomatoes in India and California too, for that matter. And also last year in India, there's a bad harvest or climate disruption, looking at a big portion of the world's food supply, which pushes this around the world. Even if you're not buying like rice from India, it's still causing the rice market to be volatile, even here in the United States where we have lots of food. And lastly, geopolitical driven shortages. Stuff we just mentioned, shortages because of what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. Fuel costs have gone way up. And of course, we know a lot of things that are happening in the war in the Middle East, slowing ocean transport and creating jitters over fertilizer supplies. Not to mention the possible or probable conflict going on with Taiwan, too. So we're certainly seeing some problems in those areas. Now, right now, again, we may have our supplies pretty good in the grocery store, but remember, they go in just in time. Once people start buying this stuff, it doesn't take long for it to disappear quickly. And that's why we prep. So find those things, and especially in this list, but just overall, certain areas you definitely need some supplies in. Maybe you're a little bit low on canned tomatoes. I'll just make that up. Then it's time to stockpile those canned tomatoes. Make sure you are ready because 2024 is going to be a volatile year. And this company who puts this out definitely puts out information that is non-biased and matter of fact, showing you the things that are coming. Put in the comments below, what are some things you've seen shortages of that we need to be aware of? I know, like for us, we've been trying to buy cheese from Aldi, and who knows? Cheese at Walmart and everywhere else. Our local grocery store has cheese, but for some reason, Aldi, we haven't been able to get some cheese. What about you? What are some things you've noticed? And as always, everybody, thanks for following along and have a great day.